What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is part 2 of episode 5 of my saddle hunting series. Episode 5 is a 4-part mini-series on ascenders. If you missed part 1, go check it out. I show you the 3 types of ascenders used by saddle hunters and explain the differences between them. In this part, I will be showing you how to tie and ascend with the 3 most common friction hitches used amongst saddle hunters. So let's start out with the Prusik Knot. This is probably the most common friction hitch that you'll see or hear about in the saddle hunting community. Not only is it good to use as an ascender, but you'll also find it on an adjustable bridge on a saddle. The Prusik Knot is tied around a climbing rope using a short section of rope that is either tied or sewn into a continuous loop, or it can be tied using a section of rope that has eyes tied or sewn onto each end. It is a bidirectional hitch, which means it will bind onto the rope in either direction, and this is because it is a symmetrical knot. The diameter of rope used to tie a Prusik knot depends on the size and material of the rope that you'll be ascending, but is usually 60% to 80% of the diameter of your climbing rope. Prusik cord is usually made up of a nylon heat-resistant accessory cord. Prusiks can be bought from many reliable manufacturers already tied or sewn into a continuous loop, or with eyes on each end, either tied or sewn. I highly recommend that you play around with a couple different diameter Prusiks to see what works best with your diameter climbing rope. So I have a continuous loop here that is tied together using a double fisherman's knot. And in another video I will show how to tie this double fisherman's knot, but I'm going to now show you how to tie this continuous loop into a Prusik. So I like to start out like this. I'll stretch my loop out with my knot off to one side, and I'll grab the top loop, put it behind my climbing rope, and I'll do a girth hitch. Okay, so then you're wound up with this. You'll go one more time, and you'll go one more time. So you wind up with 3 wraps on each side, and each wrap is consecutive from outside to inside. Push the wraps in and dress it. Just keep pulling it tight until you get all the slack out. You get it as tight as possibly can. Make sure your wraps stay continuous, and there you have a Prusik. So once you're clipped in, as long as there's downward pressure on the tag end of this knot, then it's not going to allow this hitch to slide down the rope. So if you need to adjust down, then all you have to do is put pressure on the top side of the knot and it allows it to slide down. But when ascending, you have to grab the loose end with one hand and slide the Prusik up the rope. Then once pressure is applied again, it won't slide back down. So if you want to get fancy with that, make it a one-handed operation, you add a Prusik tender to the tag end of your rope, clip it into your carabiner. This is clipped into your bridge. Pull up on the rope. The Prusik tender pushes the knot up until you release the tag end, and then it bites again. You want to go up some more, pushes the rope up. You want to come back down, push the knot back down. So let's move on to the Schwabisch and Distel. The Schwabisch and Distel are very similar to the Prusik. In fact, they are considered and sometimes called a non-symmetrical Prusik. The same sizing parameters of a Prusik are also used for Schwabisch and Distel, but a few key differences between these 2 knots and a Prusik is, since they're non-symmetrical, these 2 knots cannot be tied using a continuous loop and must be tied with a section of rope with eyes either tied or sewn into each end. They are usually 22 inches to 28 inches in length from eye to eye, and unlike the Prusik, they are only able to bite onto the climbing rope in one direction. The end result in tying a Schwabisch and Distel are very similar, but they are tied using different techniques. So first I'm going to show you how to tie the Schwabisch, and then I'll show you how to tie the Distel, and then we'll get all hooked up and I'll show you how to ascend with them. So the rope that I'm using here is a 22-inch eye-to-eye Technora rope with eyes sewn on each end from the factory. This has its pros and cons. The eye ends are skinnier, so it's easier to feed through, but where it's sewn together is a little stiff. So you just have to kind of weigh out what you like better. So the way I like to start the Schwabisch is take one of the eyes, go around the back of the rope, hold it to the rope, make 4 loops. 3, and on the 4th one come back behind the first eye, then come around the back side of the rope, and then feed it back through your last loop. Pull it through, get your eyes to the same length, hook your beaner through, dress it. This is what you should be left with. You're ready to go. Same applies from the Prusik. You want to slide down the rope, put pressure on the top of the knot, slides down. You want to go up the rope, put pressure on the bottom side of the knot. Can't slide back down. So a Prusik Tender can also be used with a Schwabisch. Hook it through your beaner, pull on your tag end. The tender pushes the knot up. You let go, rock solid. Go back down. You want to go back up the rope, pull on your tag end, boom. So for the distal, just like your Schwabisch, you're going to come behind your rope with your first eye. You'll go 4 wraps up, 2, 3, and then on your 4th one, just like the Schwabisch, you'll come behind your first eye, but you'll stay behind your rope and then feed your eye back through under your first eye. Okay. And you'll pull your slack out, feed your beaner through, and this is what you'll be left with. So it's very similar to the Schwabisch, just that last step and the way it's tied is different. So the distal works just like the Prusik and the Schwabisch. Move up the rope, put downward pressure on it, doesn't go anywhere. Put downward pressure on the top of the knot, it'll slide down. Go back up the rope, push it up, put pressure back on it. So just like the other two, you can use a Prusik Tender, hook it to your beaner, makes it a one-handed operation, pushes up, slide down, pushes up. But I'm going to go ahead and get hooked up. We're going to go outside and I'm going to show you how to ascend with a friction hitch. And since they all pretty much work the same, I'm just going to use the distal. And we're going to go up a few feet and come down a few feet just to show you how it works. I strongly encourage everyone to do their own research on using these methods and to practice at ground level before being elevated. I will not be responsible for any injury or property damage caused while using any of these methods demonstrated in this video. Use these methods at your own risk. So for demonstration purposes, I've got my tether hooked up about 7 foot high, and I've already got my distal tied to my tether. I'm going to go ahead and hook up my Prusik Tender. Make sure it lines up good. Hook my beaner to my bridge, hit the screw gate, and pull the slack out of my tether. Okay. So I can pretty much put my weight on my tether. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few steps up, take the slack out, and then come back down. Go. When you want to adjust it out, all you have to do is pull out on the top. I don't recommend doing that with your full weight on it, just in case it decides to continue to slip. So just going to pull some weight off of the tether, back it down, put my weight back on it. Take a little bit of weight off, slide it down. There we go. Now you can see how out of whack this distal is. So you want to pay close attention to that because it's going to get real tight and bind up real bad. So every chance you get, you need to redress it. And the more it binds up, the harder it is to use. So The problem with friction hitches is you can dress it all you want. As soon as you put weight on it, it's going to put it into locking mode. By binding up, it's just doing its job. So now I'm going to attempt to show you without the Prusik Tender. You can't pull your slack out. You have to use both hands. And so whenever you put weight on it, you take the weight back off, it makes it even that much more difficult to work. Now you're up here, you don't have a free hand, so how are you supposed to tighten this up? So if you're not using a lineman's belt, kind of SOL. So I'm going to hook up my lineman's belt to show you how ridiculous it is to try to use this with two-handed operation. So anyways, my recommendation, if you're going to use a rope type friction hitch, you're going to want to have a tender of some sort. There's a bunch of them out there. It makes life a lot easier. You don't have to use both hands. Doesn't really help you on adjusting out, you know, but it's doable. I don't really think that this is a feasible means of ascending, especially if you're going to do it all the time. I definitely think there are better options out there, and I'm pretty sure you'll see that in the next couple of videos. I know this was kind of a limited demonstration, but I just wanted you to see what it looks like to use a rope type friction hitch as an ascender. I've got a Prusik on my adjustable bridge. I don't really adjust it very much. I know exactly where I want it when I'm climbing, so I go ahead and adjust it before I clip up for the first time, and it just kind of stays there. You can use a Prusik on your lineman's belt with a tender to make it one-handed operation as well. As you can see, I'm using the Kong Duck here, which you'll see in the next video. And like I said earlier, I think there are a lot better ways to ascend a tree than a rope type friction hitch. As you have just seen, these hitches are all very good ways of ascending, but in my opinion, friction hitches can be cumbersome and leave a lot of room for error. And to me, saddle hunters, or any other climbers for that matter, should try and limit any possibility of error. I think there are far better methods of ascending, which you will see in the next two videos, but these are great skills to know in case of emergency or to have as a backup. Make sure you subscribe to get notifications when I upload the next two parts of this mini-series. Don't forget to go back and check out all of my other saddle hunting videos. If you have any questions or anything specific you'd like to see, please drop me a comment. Hit that like button, share this video with your buddies. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see y'all next time in Rob's Man Cave.